What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So it's Thursday, which means it is time for our weekly redraft. We have gone from 2020 all the way down to 2015 thus far, which means today we are doing 2014. And I kind of think that this is an underrated draft. I'm not going to lie, considering 2015 is like regarded as like the greatest modern draft of all time, and 2016 is also pretty loaded. This one flies under the radar. This is a banger of a draft. So let's take a look at the original top 10. And when Ekblad, Reinhart, Draisaitl, Bennett, Dalcol, Virtanen, Fleury, Nylander, Ehlers, and Nick Ritchie. So obviously some busts mixed in there with some absolute studs. It's going to be all over the place. Before we get into it, I want to give some honorable mentions like I usually do. We got Kevin Fiala, Nick Ehlers. I think if a different team was selecting at 10th overall, those guys would be in the redraft. I'm going to explain why they're not, though. Then we got Devon Toews, Alex Tuch, Jared McCann, a bunch of other guys you could probably make arguments for. But without further ado, at number 10, again, this is going to need an explanation, but I am going with Aaron Ekblad, who obviously went, well, originally Nick Ritchie went here, but Aaron Ekblad at 10th overall. And when looking at it, they got this pick originally from the Bobby Ryan trade the previous summer. The Anaheim Ducks were a fantastic team. They were a 116-point team that was a second round exit coming into this draft. So when looking at a guy like an Aaron Ekblad, although I think Fiala and Ehlers are going to have better, like when it's all said and done, better overall careers, I think with this 10th overall selection, I think they go with the guy that was NHL ready. And when you look at this draft in general, Aaron Ekblad was by far the most NHL ready guy out of anybody. He walked into the NHL, won the Calder with 38 points. The following year was around like 48 points as well. Got Norris votes both of his first two seasons. So in looking at the Anaheim Ducks in 2015, they made the Western Conference Finals, made it to Game 7, lost to the Chicago Blackhawks. They also made the Conference Finals in 2017, as well as making the playoffs in 2016 and 2018. So when looking at this Anaheim team, I think they go, if they add another top four defenseman in Aaron Ekblad, do they maybe beat the Chicago Blackhawks and go on to win the Stanley Cup? Or in 2017, do they beat the Nashville Predators? I think they take an Aaron Ekblad compared to an Ehlers or Fiala, especially, that took longer to develop, and their primes have been from 2019 to now, when the Anaheim Ducks sucked regardless. Like the Anaheim Ducks the last 4 or 5 years have sucked. If they had Ehlers and Fiala, it's not like they'd be making the playoffs or having that much of a bright future, considering their new core is going to be like 6, 7, 8, 9 years older than anybody you take in 2014. So I think Aaron Ekblad, this is probably my longest like explanation of Eddie because I got to explain it. I think Aaron Ekblad is the pick here because even though he's not maybe an elite top 20 defenseman right now, he still has had a fantastic career and he still is a very good top four, very good second pair, low end first pair, probably still a first pair guy. Him and Forsling have been very good. He's still a good player, but I think when you add on top of the fact that he was so good right out of the gate, the Ducks clearly back in 2014 were in win now mode. I think Aaron Ekblad is the pick at 10th overall. But I wonder if any other team was picking that was more so in a retool rebuild, I think Fiala or Ehlers is the pick, if that makes sense. I'm going to get killed in the comment section, but with that explanation, I think it makes more than enough sense. At 9th overall, Ehlers initially went here. I'm going to go with Sam Reinhart. He's obviously breaking out, so some people might say, oh, this is insane recency bias. I don't think it is at 9th overall. If I had him like 6th or 5th, definitely. But when looking at him, the two prior seasons before this, he had 149 points in 165 games. So again, around 75-point pace while being fantastic defensively. And on top of that, his final 3 years in Buffalo, when he was like 22, 23, 24, 25, like that kind of range, he was around the 62-point guy. He had 155 points in 205 games. So this isn't some overnight career high year. He has not been building to like 55 goddamn goals, but he has been a very good player starting at like 22, 23 years old, building up. He's not going to be a consistent, even 40 plus goal guy every single season. But I think when looking at him 2 years ago, when they won the President's Trophy, I think he was 34 goals, 48 assists, 82 points. I think he's going to be around mid to high 30 goals, low 40 assists going on in his career. And considering he's such a fantastic defensive player, I think 9th overall makes some sense for the Winnipeg Jets. They took a winger initially. Reinhart initially was a center, then kind of got moved over to the wing. So they kind of just pick another winger type player, so it makes sense. 8th overall, the Maple Leafs ended up picking William Nylander. He's going to be going a little bit higher in this. I have them taking Thatcher Demko. It looks like this year he's probably going to be the Vezina runner-up, and you're going to see I'm going to have the goalies very close in this redraft. There's really not much separating the two other goalies that I'm going to name later. But when looking at Demko, he's definitely playing the best out of those guys, but he hasn't really had the high that an Igor Igor Sturkin and Sorokin are the next two. So Igor Sturkin and Sorokin had in like their best season, but I still think Thatcher Demko is a no doubt top 10, probably top 5 goalie at this point. I just lean with the other guys a little bit more. And for the Maple Leafs, taking a goalie here makes a lot of sense considering they have had a lot of goalie troubles most recently. Not saying Nylander was the wrong pick here. He obviously was fantastic, but definitely locking up that franchise goalie would probably be a good idea. At 7th overall, initially the Hurricanes went with Hayden Fleury. That obviously didn't work out. I have them taking Sorokin. In his rookie year, he had a .918 save percentage during that COVID-shortened season. Then the following 2 years, he had a .924 in 112 starts. He was arguably the best goalie in hockey over that 2-year period. Yes, Shesterkin won a Vezina. Yes, Ullmark won a Vezina. But in terms of consistency, he put up back-to-back a .924 and then a .925 last year. Probably maybe could have won the Vezina Trophy. I think he probably was the best goaltender, but obviously Ullmark's overall stats were just so insane that he was going to win it. But considering Sorokin played 63 games with like a .924, it was absolutely insane. So in looking at him with the Carolina Hurricanes, similar to the Toronto Maple Leafs, they've been dealing with some goalie problems in just the last 5 years. They've just been swapping out goalies at like a rapid pace. They have not been able to find their guy, so they get their guy here in Ilya Sorokin. 6th overall, Jake Virtanen went to the Canucks. Big bust, had some off the ice issues, so definitely not picking him again. I have them taking Igor Shesterkin. Obviously, he won the Vezina 2 seasons ago with a .935 save percentage, one of the best Vezina winning seasons. Oh, I go so far to say of all time, definitely of the 21st century. When this guy is on, he's absolutely insane. He had a .916 last year, has dipped a little bit to a .904, but I still think he's playing much better of late. I think in his last 10, I have the stats up, 7-2-1 with a .912 save percentage his last 10. I think he's just having he had a bit of a rough patch this season, but I still think he is a top 5 goalie. And the thing that gives him the nod over a Sorokin, over a Demko, is his playoff performance is so insane thus far in his career in 27 games. Obviously, he had that one really deep run 2 years ago with the Rangers when they made the Eastern Conference Finals. He had a .930 save percentage. He honestly outplayed Vasilevsky in that series. And then even the most recent year when the Devils past game 2 kind of left him out to dry, he still had a .929 save percentage. So in 27 career playoff games, he has a .930. He rises to the occasion when it matters most. So the Vancouver Canucks, instead of a Thatcher Demko, which again, Demko, Sorokin, Shesterkin, shuffle them all you want. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. It's all about personal preference. I'm honestly probably trying to seem like less of a homer bias by having Shesterkin over Sorokin, if I'm being honest. So when looking at it, I just have Shesterkin as my number 6 guy. All 3 teams, Canucks, Carolina, and Toronto, all needed goalies. So I think it makes sense to kind of have a run off right before Reinhart, because at number 5, I have another forward. Initially, Michael Dal Call went to my New York Islanders. Massive bust. I have them taking Dylan Larkin, who in my opinion is a kind of underrated player. For the last 3 or 4 years, he has been an elite around point per game center on not that good of Detroit teams. They've been pretty ass. This is the first season that we're seeing him actually on a winning team, and he has 24 goals, 25 assists in 49 games. So he's around 40 pace right now, and I think that's pretty sustainable when looking at it. Again, just so solid 2 ways. So with the New York Islanders, they don't have Matt Barzal yet in this scenario, so they get their next future center after Tavares leaves, obviously, in a Dylan Larkin. And I think he really would fit a Barry Trotz system, a more defensive 2-way kind of game. I think that would work perfect for Dylan Larkin. And I do think he is more consistent and obviously plays center compared to Reinhart, more of a wing. So I think that there is that gap to fit those 3 goalies in between. But I would go with Dylan Larkin over those 3 goalies because those 3 goalies have had pretty inconsistent seasons. Shesterkin and Sorokin obviously this year, Demko last year. So I would more so have Dylan Larkin, just a consistent point per game. The highs might not be as high as those 3 goalies, but he's definitely more consistent, with better early on, obviously, because he debuted early on, and I think he's going to play longer into his career. So at 5th overall, Dylan Larkin. 4th, Calgary Flames initially took Sam Bennett. He's a good player now. Did not really work out in Calgary. He obviously had to get traded for like a 2nd-round pick. Great deal by the Florida Panthers. But I have them taking William Nylander. Nylander was actually born in Calgary when his dad was playing there. So it's a homecoming in a way. There's another Calgary player that's going to be later on in this redraft. But when looking at William Nylander, it did take him some years to become this elite player. It was 2 years ago that he first put up 80 points. I think he had 36 goals, 44 assists. Before that, he was still a solid 60-ish point guy since like the 2016, 2017 season when Matthews and Marner debuted with him. So he's been a very good player and obviously has taken his game to another level this year. Probably going to hit 100 points. 30. Is he going to hit 40? Yeah, he's probably going to hit 40 goals as well. So I'm looking at William Nylander. I think on the Calgary Flames, him and Gaudreau would form just such a fantastic duo. They don't have Matthew Tkachuk yet in this scenario. They would obviously eventually need that franchise center. Maybe they would get in next year's draft or whatever. But when looking at it, I think William Nylander on the Calgary Flames would make a lot of sense. At third overall, the Oilers initially went with Leon Draisaitl. I have them going with Braden Point. He's basically been a top 25, top 20 player since 2018 when he put up that 41 goal, 52 assist season, 41, 51, 92 point season. That was kind of his coming out party. And since then, he's been one of the best centers in the entire NHL, a very good two-way player. Him and Nikita Kucherov form one of the best duos in the entire NHL. So when looking at Edmonton, I personally would go with a Braden Point, get that second line center behind McDavid. Behind McDavid instead, because obviously you wouldn't have Draisaitl in this redraft. So I think you take that second line center compared to maybe reaching on one of these goalies, which would definitely be nice to lock up your franchise goalie. I still think Stuart Skinner can be a solid, capable starter, so I don't really think they would need a goalie. But I think you're better off getting a Braden Point who, again, has just been far more consistent year over year and far better earlier on, 2018, 2019. I think only Demko was barely even playing in the NHL at that point. I think the Oilers would be better off getting Braden Point and forming that 1-2. If maybe in 3 or 4 years, if one of those goalies emerge as a next level, I could see the Oilers taking a goalie here. But right now, I think Braden Point is pretty clearly the answer. Number 2, Buffalo initially took Sam Reinhart. Not a bad pick. Didn't really work out for them, even though they eventually got Levi and Coolidge from that trade. But they get David Pastrnak now. There's honestly an argument for Pastrnak going number 1 in this redraft. I don't have him there, obviously, but the gap between him and who's in first, spoiler alert, Leon Draisaitl, is smaller between the gap between him and Braden Point for sure. When looking at it, Pasta broke out back in that 2018-2019 season, had 38 goals, 43 assists for 82 points in 66 games. So that is absolutely insane. It's like a 105-point pace back when it was rare to put up 105 points, as well as the following season, having 48 goals, 47 assists for 95 points in 70 games before obviously COVID and all that. Won the Rocket that season. That was basically his coming out party. Since then, he's not pretty consistently, but since then, when he's at his best, he's been a no doubt top 10 player. He did have some off the ice stuff during the COVID shortened seasons that kind of hurt his overall production, but now that that's over, he's been elite. Last year, second Hart runner-up with 113 points and 61 goals. Insane season. Led the Boston Bruins by like 46 in points. This year, yet again doing that, again on around the 110-point pace. Currently leads the Bruins in points by like 27. He has just become this offensive machine. Yes, he isn't a complete playmaker. Fantastic. He does turn over the puck a decent amount, but when looking at it in terms of putting the puck in the back of the freaking net, there's not much better than David Pastrnak. So I think he no doubt goes second overall. And then when you look at it, if Buffalo the following year gets Jack Eichel, all that would be a fantastic duo instead of them taking Sam Reinhart. And at first overall, not that surprising. It's Leon Draisaitl. Similarly to David Pastrnak, same season, 2018-2019 season, broke out, 55 goals, 50 assists, 105 points. Some people just said, oh, he's a McDavid byproduct. Then he won the Hart the following year, basically put up the exact same numbers as McDavid, a little bit better actually in terms of points per game, but obviously McDavid missed like 6 or 7 games. So he won the goddamn Hart Trophy. Basically since then has been putting up around 125 point pace. Besides this year when he's having a bit of a down year with only 68 points in 53 games, he has been for the most part a top 5 player since he won that 2020 Hart Trophy. He's been basically a top 5 player maybe outside of this year, and he's been fantastic in the playoffs. Last year, what do you have, like 13 goals in like 14 games or something ridiculous? He was absolutely unreal. So when looking at Leon Draisaitl, he goes first overall to the Florida Panthers. Him and Barkov form the best 1-2 center punch, besides obviously McDavid. What would be the best 1-2 center punch? Because obviously in the scenario, we wouldn't have Draisaitl and McDavid. They'd be absolutely loaded and just a fantastic team, as well as Huberdeau. That would be disgusting. Now going over to the completed redraft, we have it going Leon Draisaitl, David Pastrnak, Braden Point, William Nylander, Dylan Larkin, Igor Shesterkin, Ilya Sorokin, Thatcher Demko, Sam Reinhart, and controversially, Aaron Ekblad. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about that? Who would you move up? Who would you move down? Again, the goaltenders can probably switch. Besides that, I think it's pretty straightforward. I really don't know what else you'd maybe switch besides Aaron Ekblad. I think that is a hot take. The goalies and Aaron Ekblad's probably my hottest takes in terms of that. But let me know in the comments what do you think. I'll be seeing the next one.